Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another episode, actually, the final episode of Wild and Live. It's been a great journey. Thank you so much for everybody that's stuck with us throughout these couple of weeks for during lockdown. Um, it's been a while, hasn't it? But we've had some amazing, incredible guests who shared lots of different facts with us, loads of wild stories. I've loved it. I know you've loved it. So thank you so much to all of our fantastic guests for the final episode. We have explorer, adventurer, wildlife filmmaker, good friend of mine, Casey Anderson. Are you wild and live?
I am a wild and live. Hey, check this out.
Yeah.
How you like this? Look, that's as wild and live as it gets.
Casey, man, I
Uh,
absolutely love
I,
you. Let's have a little applause for our final guest. Nice. Casey, it's so good to see you. It's just to explain, Casey and I worked on a couple of different series together. He's always been so welcoming and so inviting to his part of the world where he lives. He's known for something else, but we get onto that in a moment. Can you tell everybody whereabouts in the world you are and what you find so special about it?
right now, I'm at home, which happens to be about 30 miles north of Yellowstone National Park. So yeah, it's quite wild and live here right now. I mean, I have everything from grizzly bears to wolves to deer, mountain lions in my backyard all the time, and it's on purpose. This is where I grew up in Montana, and there's just no better place, especially in these kind of crazy times. It's just like
Mm.
I get to go outside and run around and do what I'm always doing. Yeah, right here. I mean, I do my job, a wildlife filmmaker, often right, literally in my backyard. And you've been right there, Patrick. You know
I
how it can
know
be.
it's been amazing to go to head over to Montana. One of the we were filming in the Gallatin Mountains. Now, correct? Is that in Montana or is that in another state? Because there are several. There are three states. There's Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana that all surround Yellowstone. Yellowstone is part of the greater. Is it the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem or the Yellowstone Greater
That's right.
Ecosystem?
No, you got it right first time. Yeah,
Which way around is it?
the Greater Yellowstone
The
ecosystem, and
Greater
we were in the
Yellowstone
Gallatin
Ecosystem.
Range, which is primarily in the Montana side, so the northern side of the park.
Yep.
In fact, most of the stuff that we did, we spent most of our time in Montana. Although the one time we kind of popped over into the park and saw those little cubs running around, that was technically in Wyoming.
Awesome. Okay, well, we'll get onto that in just a moment. I'd love everybody to kind of get a sense of what your story is. I mean, most people know you for not necessarily for yourself, but for one of your very good friends, Brutus. Can you tell us what's so special about Brutus and how you came into each other's lives?
Yeah, so yeah, Brutus, my sidekick, my 18-year-old, 900-pound grizzly bear friend. I mean, everybody's got one of those, right? Um, it's a crazy story. It wasn't really on purpose, I guess. Growing up in Montana, loving wildlife, kind of always being a wildlife guy, whether that was going out taking pictures and filming them to help rehabbing and releasing things, releasing animals into the wild. And the situation came along where I was consulting at a wildlife park. This little tiny bear cub was going to be euthanized. Couldn't be with his mother. Couldn't be released in the wild. And I was, 25 years old and decided, maybe I should rescue this little guy and raise a grizzly bear cub. Get
It sounds.
give him a chance at life. Yeah,
I mean, it
and
sounds
sounds a
absolutely
great
ludicrous.
idea, right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, as soon as I found out that about that story, I just thought that just so many questions. But like you said, you extended an arm like an olive branch to try and save Brutus from being euthanized. And tell us, what is it like to be friends with a grizzly bear? Like, what are the kind of highs, the lows, the realities of, because this is not just some kind of Instagram trick. This is about caring for an animal. So can you walk us through that? I think there's something really earnest about your relationship.
Yeah, it's ever evolving too, because I can't say it's over that evolution of that relationship.
Yeah.
At first it's just about saving a life, and then it gets into the responsibility of like trying to give him the best life possible, closest to what he would have in the wild. And then it is getting to know this sentient being, seeing emotion and intelligence at a level greater than I could ever imagine. And I know grizzly bears. I spent most of my life prior to that studying and watching them, and he just continued to surprise me and show me things that were very complex. And then then you fall in love with him as a being. Um, and then, it's the crazy thing is that it's made me the most anti-captive wildlife person that you can imagine. I mean, every day I fight to make sure bears and every animal can stay out in the wild, have a place to call home, and not be in situations like Brutus. And it's because of him, that gift that he gave me through that relationship, that I fight for that every day. Yeah, there's a sense of guilt sometimes now. It's like here I am. We're stuck with each other, right? And I have to give him what
But
I can.
I suppose in
But at the
your
same
case,
time, I wish he was out, out here running around.
yeah, no, sorry, I interrupted you there, Casey. I suppose I just wanted to like touch on that fact that you're saying, that maybe that sense of guilt, but then on the flip side, without you, then someone like Brutus, an animal like Brutus, would have met his end a long time ago.
He would have, yeah, and he has changed people's lives. He's changed what people think about grizzly bears in his 18 years that he's been here, because we've had the opportunity to do films with him and showcase some of the things that I've learned along the way. That relationship allows us a little window into the life of a grizzly bear that you wouldn't get the opportunity to have out in the wild. So it's making sure that, those ethics and ideals stay in line, and making sure that we're not exploiting him, and that he's just being a bear and showing off how awesome bears are. And then he is. I mean, it's truly an ambassador to his wild cousins. People can look at him and fall in love with him, and realize that he's an individual, and he's a very unique individual, and that the entire bear world is a bunch of unique individuals out there, and it makes the wild world even more valuable, because you can see the value in the individual that we call Brutus.
Yeah, that's true. I love that. I love that. It sounds like he's an animal ambassador for his grizzly kind. It's not just Brutus that you interact with or work with. You study, you explore the wilds of Montana, as you said, and that involves understanding um, the movements and behaviors of wild grizzly bears, wild grizzlies, and wild black bears. So we spent some time trying to track some bears during the winter. Now, can you explain both why it was hard to find some bears during the winter and in the location that we were at? Because there were a lot of dynamic things going on.
Well, if there's any doubt that, Patrick, that you're a tough dude, you're a tough dude. So we go out, we're looking for grizzly bears in the very, late winter, early spring. And in Montana, that is about as winter as it gets. Actually, the storm, the weather changes drastically. We're climbing up at these high elevations, trying to find bears leaving their dens, because they hibernate most of the winter. And we were at that edge where we would only be getting a few bears coming out. Some of the first ones, like the males, some of the females without cubs. So our odds were already against us a little bit, just with the numbers of bears, and then the weather and the snowpack. I mean, we were up in the top of those mountains where I'd say it's safe to say some of those drifts we were walking across were, 10 to 20 feet deep. And then the wind was like, 60 miles an hour, like blowing us off our feet. And you just put the wind chill factor, it was wicked. I mean, you would have to go to, the Arctic to find, weather that was comparable at that time. We were walking around looking for bears that we couldn't even stand on our feet because we're getting blown off the ground.
I generally felt like I was in the American wilderness, and I don't have any
You were
for you guys at home at the moment today, but I'll see if I can find some links and pop them into the description. Summer or Montana winter, Montana summer, and look at the difference. It goes from being locked in ice and snow, and then transforms into this lush green. I mean, we can see you now, Casey. It looks like a beautiful summer's day. So it seems so the change in weather is so drastic. But that's where bears come into their own, because they're specialists. How do they survive that winter, um, that shift between being nice and warm, but then also being really cold during the winter?
Yeah, well, they prepare themselves for that winter throughout the entire warm months. Even from starting now all the way into October, November, they are just eating as much food as they can so they can go underground, hide out in their little dens for 5 months without eating or drinking at all. So they fatten up. But so every day now is just eat, 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 eat. And most of the bears are out now. They're definitely all out now. And they are, like, I see right now, like on some social media, it's like people are like videoing bears chasing down elk calves and eating them, and then digging up roots, and they're eating everything they can. and they are specialists. There's so much food out here, but it could be everything from digging up roots to chasing down elk calves, which is two very different types of food sources and ways of achieving them. And they can do both. They're amazing animals. They have to be, because, like
Yeah,
you said, this is an extreme area.
it is. It is wild. It is extreme. I want to share some insight into, we're talking about what bears eat. Um, and you showed me a couple of different things. I think one was a type of root, biscuit
Yeah,
root, if I can remember correctly. And then also we were talking about white bark pine. So,
yeah.
two very important sources of food for the bears, for grizzly bears. Can you talk about those two different food sources? And yeah, us find out about white bark pine and biscuit root.
Yeah, and they each come at different times of the year. So the white bark pine, well, we'll start off with the biscuit root because it's now. Biscuit root is a plant that grows on the ground. It's a lot like a carrot. It's like this big tuber, just goes in the ground, and they dig it up and they love it. You tasted it. It
I
tastes,
did.
it's
I
not
did taste
bad.
it. It was like
And
kind of like a potatoy starchy carrot. Yeah.
yeah, and so they'll spend their day just walking around using those giant claws, excavating the ground, digging those up, and they'll eat hundreds and hundreds of those roots in a day. And then they kind of go away. They could become inedible. Season moves on, and then the trees, a white bark pine, which are high elevation, big, beautiful pine trees that give off these pine nuts that come out of their cones. And usually, what happens is the red squirrels actually eat the cones, pull all the nuts out, cache them in their middens for the winter. And then the grizzly bear comes along, sniffs. It's like, oh, this squirrel's done all the work for me and cached, thousands and thousands of these pine nuts and these middens in the ground, and comes and just digs them up and eats them all. But they taste just like a pine nut you would put on your salad. I mean, they're delicious and high in protein, and they're wonderful. And they eat thousands and thousands and thousands of them, usually in the fall, right before they go into the winter. And because of climate change, a lot of those big trees are dying because it's infestation of a beetle that usually dies off with the cold winters. But now that we have had these warmer winters, the beetles are infesting these trees, killing these trees. No pine nuts, and that's a staple food source for the bears before they go in the winter. And so it's they're adjusting, but they can only adjust so many times before they run out of options.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting seeing, talking through that dynamic with you about how, I love that the fact that squirrels are caching these little pine nuts, but then the bears are clever enough to seek them out and smell them out. Great sense of smell. Um, but yeah, it's such a shame to know that climate change is affecting those beetles, or how many of those beetles can then survive the winter, which then affects the population of white bark, white. I can't even talk right now, Casey. Completely my mind.
It's all right.
But yeah, I'd love for us to talk about the for bear cubs. We spent some time watching and filming a particular mother. She ended up having a scar on her face. I think you were talking. I was interested in how she managed to get that scar, really fresh scar on her face. A female that you've been following for more than 10 years. Can you remind us, why would a mother like her have a scar on her face, and how can she protect her cubs?
Well, yeah, the reputation of a mother bear is just to be, protective, and that is totally true. It's the reputation is true. So, out in Yellowstone, when these little cubs are coming out of their den for the first time, they're the size of a loaf of bread, very defenseless little guys, and that's one of her main jobs is just defending them constantly from packs of wolves. Other big male bears may come along and try to kill the little cubs so that she will mate again that year. So she is always fighting anything that they encounter that may pose a threat. And that can include humans. Humans hiking along, she might see a human hiking along and think, oh, that's a threat, and go over and beat it up. And that's when people get mauled. But that big scar on her face, yeah, more than likely, without a doubt, was from a big male bear. Big male bear got close to her, 2, 3 times her size, and they don't think twice about it. That's part of their greatest part of their defense is that they just, like a rocket, go straight at whatever the problem is and take it out. And she did, and she got into this big bear, and big claws that are 6 inches long and giant canines like 3 inches long, and you just think about all that power behind those weapons. And they got in a fight. She got slashed across the face by a big claw.
Gosh,
He probably looked worse, ran the other
Right, so
direction.
he probably came off worse.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
because the Cubs, she's had all the Cubs that she had, when she came out of the den, so she won. But she, had a battle wound to show for it.
Yeah, it just goes to show how fierce mother bears can be in protecting their cubs. Um, when it comes to nursing their cubs, the mother's milk is so important to the cubs. Can you tell us why that is so important to these young bears?
Well, they have to grow so fast in a short period of time, and they do. I mean, they can gain a pound a day. But the food is, even though Yellowstone has so much food, mom has to teach them how to achieve it, whether it's digging or chasing, what season certain food sources are in certain places. So that first year, it's all about learning. It's not about necessarily eating. So she has to not only teach, she has to eat herself and then produce enough milk to let these little bear cubs eat enough that they can grow a pound a day.
A
And
pound a
it's
day is a
high
lot.
in fat and
That's
protein.
like
It is like
half a
super rich
kilogram.
milk.
That's half a kilogram a day. That's
Yeah.
and sorry, you're saying that's coming from that super fat rich milk.
Yeah, it is for the first 6 months. Maybe even the first 4 months. But gradually she's teaching them to eat, but they're not eating enough. So that fat rich milk is essential in that first half of that first year. And she will nurse those cubs for the entire time she has them with her while she's teaching them, and that is sometimes 2 to 3 years. She just nurse them here and there just to make sure that they're getting enough to get to grow and get to that size that they're ready to break off on their own.
Nice, Casey. It sounds like you. I mean, that's just a slither of some of the adventures that you've been on. We're at 17 minutes. I'm going to go for another 5 or 10. Wrap up on some of your other wildlife encounters. Actually, before we do, let's. Can you tell everybody about? I think it was. Can't remember the name that you gave it. Bear Meadow. There was a meadow that we went to in summer where we just saw a whole bunch of different bears. For you, it seemed like it was a very special place. Why is that?
Well, this place, Bear Meadow, is what we call it, is really special because it's this place where this kind of, I would call, a society or culture of bears returns every year. And I've watched these bears return to that area over and over again, and it is generation after generation. So you'll see moms and their daughters and sons all out in this meadow getting along, because there's a rich food source there in these roots, similar to the biscuit root. And they just return, but there's just like peacefulness amongst this bear clan. Um, that's it's amazing. It's like sometimes they break the rules, males hanging out with females with cubs, but there's another relationship there that's really interesting because it's right in the middle of all these ranches, where people are raising livestock in their families. But the reason why the bears are there is because they allow them to be there. They tolerate them. They look at them as neighbors, and it's just this beautiful uh, example of coexistence at work. These bears within these ranches and cattle walking in the background and farmhouses off in the distance, and they're thriving and getting along with each other. And yeah, there's just something about that scene that this we need it. It just shows the value of tolerance and acceptance and just open mindedness that we must have in order for these bears to thrive. And if we do, they thrive better than ever.
Yeah,
And it's an example right there at Bear Meadow.
it was really beautiful to see, and it's I never really I think I could go on about that relationship you talk about, the surrounding people that live there because wildlife and people don't always manage to coexist, but it's nice to see in that one spot that it can happen if the will is there. You've also, as we round up, because time is literally flying. Casey, I could chat to you for hours. I mean, we have spoken for hours before. Um,
For sure.
you also film wildlife outside of the states. Um, I wonder what if you were to pick out one of your top filming moments. What would be in like your top 10?
It's such a good question, and it's one that's hit me very hard recently. It's not, most of the wildlife filmmakers you talk to, they would, tell you, oh, it was some sort of, predation scene or some rare behavior that everybody's been hoping to get. But yeah, we just finished up on a 3-year project where we were filming pumas down in Patagonia. And that actually will be airing later this year. It's actually airing in Germany right now, and probably be at the UK before it gets to the States. But anyway,
What's the name of the
um,
show?
it's going to be called Puma Legends of Ice Mountain. So it's
Legends
a
of Ice
Terra
Mountain.
Mater Studios slash Wildlife Films slash Vision Hawk Films co-pro. Yeah, and then it's just the mountain lion, the puma is one of my favorite animals to begin with. So the moment, my favorite thing I've ever filmed, filming this mother and these two kitten pumas, and it was getting to be evening, and they were about to ready to, they're going to go on a hunt, and we knew where they were, so we went to the area to watch them wake up and go hunting. And as they were waking up, two of the kittens had very different personalities. One was really, wanted to be with mom all the time. The other one was kind of a loner. And so mom gets up, starts to walk to the top of the hill, look around for things to eat, and the other baby goes along. But the other cub's sitting there, staring like this, straight up into the sky, just fixed on something. I thought, oh, she must be like sees a condor or something, but her head's not moving. Like she'd just be, following a condor soaring. But I'm sitting in a truck, so I can't really look up, and I'm kind of trying to look. I'm looking at the cat, and I'm talking like 10 minutes. This cat is just focused to the point where I think something's wrong with it. And I'm filming it, and because it's such a strange behavior, but it's just like stuck at a statue staring like that. So finally I get out of the car and I look up, and it was a full moon in the sky. And that little cub was just sitting there just like when we were little cubs,
Wow.
seeing the big full moon for the first time, just taking it all in, just looking at it like that. And for me, it just struck me like really deeply. It was one of the coolest things that I've ever witnessed and filmed. Was just simply a child of the earth staring at the wonder of that beautiful full moon. I mean, that's it. That was awesome.
I, Casey, I love that. And I think that's why I appreciate speaking to you and having these conversations because one of maybe the untold sides of wildlife filmmaking is that connection that you start to build with the animals that you film, and seeing them past just being animals and seeing their character, seeing the thought of seeing a puma looking up at the moon like wondering and just I don't know it definitely touches a chord which is it goes beyond biology and conservation and tracking and all the kind of adventures and stuff that we do. It's deeper and yeah, I love having these conversations with you, Casey. I think we are close to time. Let's have a quick look. Yes, we are. We've just gone over the 20-minute mark. But Casey, I'm going to bring it to a close there because our
Okay.
conversations are definitely not over. I've already got a
No
follow up
way.
lined up from one of our earlier from our trip in the Gallatin Mountains. I got to send that over to you actually. Um, but what's next for you? What's next for Casey Anderson and for Brutus?
Oh, well, Brutus has got a new friend. We rescued a little bear from Alaska named
No way.
Max last
Oh
year. So he's
yes.
a yearling, and he's growing. He's a yearling and weighs already 350 pounds. So next for Brutus is he's getting a new friend, which is very cool because that relationship will last their lifetimes. So super important. And for me, back to the same thing. I'm going back down to Chile, more pumas, some coastal Patagonia stuff, breaking out of my norm, filming whales and dolphins and things like that. But
I
always,
can't. I
when I
literally.
got the phone with you, I'm walking right here and looking for stuff.
Casey, you're ridiculous. Literally, I'm sure everybody's like, I hate that guy. He films pumas, bears, and whales. But I'm sure that everybody loves you too. Thank you so much, Casey. I really appreciate having this chat with you. Always a pleasure. So thank you for being a guest
Always
on
a
our
pleasure.
final Wild and Live.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I can't wait to talk to you again. I know we'll do it soon.
Good stuff. All right, thanks, Casey. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. See
Round
ya.
of applause for Casey, ladies and gentlemen. An absolute legend in the game, and yeah, a good friend of mine. We've had so many awesome adventures together. I only have great things to say about the guy. Please check out the description below, and that will give you a link to his Instagram account page, and you can check out his adventures and also stay in touch with what Brutus and his new little buddy Max are up to. That brings us to the end, the final Wild and Live. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for everybody that's been tuning in. I started this just because we were in that position of lockdown. Everybody was indoors. We were all literally kind of losing our minds, and And as much as this has given some value to you guys, well, I hope it has, through whether it's facts or stories or just getting a different insight, just helping you through your day. It's helped me a lot. It's given me something to look forward to and work towards. So thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. It's been fantastic. What's coming up next? So I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks focusing on some work stuff. Got some potential new shows that we're trying to get commissioned and off the ground now that COVID is slowly releasing us from a grip. The lockdown grip is loosening. And on Patrick Goes Wild, this YouTube channel, I'm going to be going through or going back through all my archive. I've got lots of footage from being in Florida with Ben Harris, Kenya, white rhinos, Mongolia, just trips upon trips that I really need to go back and create some content for you guys. Now that having, I think we're up to 200 followers, and I'm so thankful for all of you, supporting me in that way. And I really genuinely look forward to once these videos come out. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. We're going to have a bit more production value, make them a bit nice and shiny and that. You know what I'm saying, bruh? So from me, this is a final thank you, a final goodbye from me, Patrick Aryee. This has been Wild and Live. Peace out, people. I'll see you next time.